What is going on? StreamYard, streaming live, back at it. Facebook, YouTube, and X. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Once again, a live episode, finally able to be live and in action once again for another episode. As I mentioned, Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Got to bring this up from the jump. This show, as I like to keep it the same format, I like to keep it live. I like to obviously recap the previous game with the Buffalo Bills, a shootout, if you will, against the Los Angeles Rams. I almost said St. Louis there, but I corrected myself. It was the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to recap that game in this podcast. I'm also going to preview and predict the upcoming battle between the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. This is a game that I've had circled on my calendar since the schedule came out. This was a game that I desperately knew would have major implications for both conferences, being that both of these teams are two of the best teams in the National Football League, being that both of these teams are the cream of the crop that is in the National Football League. And as I preview and predict each week, I got to tell you guys that this has to be addressed in this show. The areas in which the Bills, from what I've seen, are susceptible. The areas in which I've seen and where the Bills have a lot of work to do. The areas that led to what we saw this past week against the LA Rams. But before I do all that, I want to let you guys know that you can comment wherever you're tuning in, chime in and fire away some comments in the comments section below and chat with me. I'd love to get some comments. I'd love to get your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills, even these guys, the Sabres, playing right now against the Rangers. I believe it's 1-0 at this point, early in the second. It's been a rough season so far for the Sabres. We need the Bills to keep us at bay. We need the Bills to be the team for us to carry the rock. But before I dive into the subject matter within this show, I want to send a special shout out to 26shirts.com, the show sponsor, as well the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network, where this is streamed live every single Wednesday, live or pre-recorded Wednesday at 8. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, I want you guys to chime in. Please give me your thoughts. And this is live. Thomas Take Sports Podcast is live. You guys are tuning in. It is 8:03, almost 4 minutes into the show. We got about 150 people on here right now to start out. It's going to trickle up. Please share this, tweet this, repost, subscribe to my podcast channel on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it as well. There was a lot of stuff that happened today in sports. I have to acknowledge the breaking news that I had heard right as I got home today that Bill Belichick is back as a head coach, but it is not in the form and fashion that you guys thought he would be. He's back as a head coach for the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. So 5-year deal, first reported as a 3-year deal. That was scrubbed all over social media. That was, said, hey, this is wrong. It's 5. It's 5 years. It's not 3. And that is very interesting to me. I don't know how Bill Belichick is going to be able to make this work. I'm skeptical. I am, because college game is a little bit different, safe to say, than the pro game. You got to recruit. You got to really be out on, boots to the ground, so to speak. And I don't know if Bill Belichick at, 72 or 73, however old he is, I don't know if Bill Belichick has what it takes to do that. So, yeah, I am shocked by that news. And honestly, I don't anticipate it going well. I really don't. I could be wrong. A lot of other coaches have gone from the pros to college later in their careers. They've done some decent things. Bill Walsh did it, and did some decent things. I just, to me, I think it reeks of more confirmation as to why Bill was mutually, as they announced it, parted ways with Robert Kraft. He wanted control. He always wanted the control. He had the control for a long time, and the moment he didn't, that's when he felt like the team wasn't doing as well as they should. And the moment he did, post Tom Brady, Kraft is like, I haven't taken anything away from you. I've let you run this team. I've let you, run this franchise, and essentially ran them into the ground post Tom Brady. So this is going to be very, very interesting. All of his former players are saying that they think that it's a mistake. All of his former players are saying that they don't know if it's going to be a good fit. Was this a deal that he just signed to so that his son could take the reins over once he's done as the head coach of UNC? Helping his son get kind of elevated to another level. That's what I originally thought it would be, but it appears as if he's going to be there for 5. I mean, I thought he'd get like a 2 or 3 year deal. He got a 5-year deal. That's not just any other contract. So very interesting, to say the least. So he'll go from being the greatest NFL head coach, arguably, in NFL history. The accomplishments are second to none. First among everybody. More Super Bowls, most Super Bowl appearances, victories, conference championships, division titles. He's got all the, laundry list of accolades in the National Football League, but now he's moving on to the college football ranks. It makes college very exciting. I think the most exciting game that the college football world could put out would be Colorado and Deion Sanders, if he stays in Colorado, versus Bill Belichick's UNC North Carolina Tar Heels. That's big ratings on a Saturday afternoon for college game day. That's fantastic. So for college football, it's great. It adds a whole new level of intrigue. I just don't know if it's the best decision for Bill Belichick's, future with what's left of his life, quite frankly, in his early 70s. So I want to get to the next talking point, which is recapping this Buffalo Bills shootout versus the LA Rams. Now going into this one, I knew that this would be a very tough game for the Buffalo Bills. I knew that it would be a game that would be well coached by Sean McVay of the Rams. One facet of this game that dawned on me once I saw the scoreboard, the bottom, scoreboard with the Bills logo and the Rams logo, is the record of the Rams. I didn't realize that the Rams were 6-6 heading into this game. Had I, known that, had I realized that, had I taken that into account, I would have realized that the Rams were essentially playing for their season in this matchup in which they're going up against a team that is hot, MVP, love is in the air quarterback, and Josh Allen. And I felt like, okay, the Rams are really going to show that they have to come away with a victory in this game in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. That was something that I realized early in the first quarter, rather. And we were tit for tat. I mean, it was 7-7. The blocked punt happened. The score, ebbed and flowed. It was, for all intents and purposes, a shootout. When you have a shootout like that, there's seminal moments in the game that you go back to and say, man, if we would have just prevented Cooper Kupp from catching that ball in the end zone that was off of his knee, essentially, if we just would have prevented Puka Nakua's, 10 third down catches on 3rd and long, we just would have covered better if we just would have adjusted. That is my biggest takeaway from the Buffalo Bills loss to the LA Rams. The lack of adjustments from the first half to the second half. They stuck with their defense. They stuck with zone. They didn't go to man. When they did start to go to man here and there, they were able to find a little bit of success. That's what made the game, kept the game a little closer. I do think there's areas, though, in particular with this defense that are cause for concern. Now, did the offense do everything right? They scored 42 points. It's really shocking that we lost a game in which we scored 42 points. It's even more shocking that we expected to win a game in which we allowed 44 points, but the offense was able to expose the Bills' defense, the offense of the Rams, that is, and then vice versa. We were able to expose the Rams' defense with some of their deficiencies. But what are these causes of concern, I should say, or just simply areas where Buffalo has had trouble? And yeah, they're 10-3, but there's 3 losses on that column, in the loss column, and the 3 losses, you go back, you look at Baltimore, you look at Houston, and you look at the LA Rams, and you say to yourself, okay, these are 3 coaches in which you have John Harbaugh. He's got an identity to his team. He's got a quarterback that's a good quarterback, great quarterback in some estimations. He's got a great running back. He's got decent wide receivers. You go to the Houston Texans, they got C.J. Stroud, they got Joe Mixon, they got decent wide receivers. And I'm not saying decent wide receivers like a wide receiver 1. No, they got 2 or 3 guys, maybe even 4, in which they could spread things out. Then you go to the LA Rams, and the better version of that, of wide receivers, of quarterbacks in terms of experience, in terms of reading a defense, Matt Stafford, in my opinion, will be in Canton at some point. I don't know if he's first ballot. That's another conversation, but I do believe that he's one of the best quarterbacks of his era. Does not get the credit that he deserves. He won a Super Bowl. He's played, 16, 17 years in this league. He's responsible for 2 of the most prolific wide receiver seasons of the last 20 years in Calvin Johnson and Cooper Kupp, at the very least 15 years, that is. And he's a damn good quarterback. Those are all things that I looked at, Kupp, Puka, as well as this run game of the LA Rams with Kyron Williams, as well as Blake Corum. Corum didn't get much action this whole year outside of this game. There is a reason for that. Now, the defense for the Buffalo Bills, my number one concern, or area in which Buffalo has some trouble defensively, is that when they face an opposing offense that can spread the field, they have problems because it forces their secondary to really have to cover more options, providing more options to the quarterback, as the opposing offense likes to do. And it also shows on the back end of things, in terms of their safeties with Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin, that when you have a receiver running at those guys, Rapp is the guy that can hit. Hamlin's the guy that is not a big hitter. He's a guy that likes to cover, bat balls down, or get a pick. But when you see Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua running straight down the field at Damar Hamlin, and the secondary, the corner, is not picking up that route because he thinks that he needs to play a certain specific section or zone of the field, Matt Stafford's just going to eat you alive. He's just going to pick you apart. He threw the ball to 5 or 6 different wideouts in this one, and he made it look extremely easy. So facing an opposing offense that can spread the field, it shows the deficiencies that the Bills do have in their secondary. Now, don't get me wrong, Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, Taylor Rapp, as well as DeMar Hamlin, they've played well all year long, but they've never played an offense that can spread out the way in which the Rams can with a quarterback that can get them the ball the way that Matt Stafford can. So I look at this as a opportunity to learn. And that's the way that you have to look at it. The defense itself can be gashed on a downhill run game. That is an area of concern. 3 running backs, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, as well as Kyron Williams. And listen, Kyron Williams didn't light up the stat sheet. He had a touchdown, but he wasn't running for 100 yards. He wasn't doing his usual 20 carries, 100 yards, and a tutty. But early in this game, Buffalo was forced to stop the run. They dared Buffalo's defense to stop the run, and they dared Buffalo's defense to stop the run with a rookie running back as well that, as I mentioned, had not gotten really any action this entire season, and Buffalo had a very hard time tackling Blake Corum in the limited action that he did get. Now, I'd like to go to the stat sheet because this will kind of support my argument about this Bills defense. But statistically, I said Kyron Williams didn't have a huge day. Maybe not in the yards. He actually had 2 touchdowns. He had 29 carries for your starting running back. As well, you look at the other, players on the Rams offense that they tried to get involved in a myriad of ways. Puka Nacua in his own right had a rushing touchdown on a, delay jet sweep kind of loop-de-loop pitch, as I'd like to call that. So that just showed you that Sean McVay scouted the hell out of Buffalo's defense. He knows that they're a defense that can get eaten up on a down run game. They're a light front seven, and what I mean by that is in weight, literally light front seven, outside of the addition of Jordan Phillips, outside of the addition of Quentin Jefferson, which former Buffalo Bills coming back because Sean McDermott knows that they're light. And that's where a running back that is as big as Derrick Henry, is as much of a bowling ball as Kyron Williams, or is as much of a well-rounded running back as Joe Mixon, that's where they really fall into traps of the clock wearing down against them, Josh Allen being forced to sit on the sideline while Buffalo's defense can't stop the run. So this is an area that is of massive concern for me, because when you look at the teams in the AFC, they're all teams that have violent running backs. Talking Chase Brown, if the Bengals do make the playoffs, I doubt they will, but if they did, that's a guy that would concern me right now, playing against the Bills. Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, who we've already seen chew up the Buffalo Bills in the previous matchups early in the season. So the downhill north-south halfback dive, the stretch runs, the zone runs prior to Christian McCaffrey's injury, and I know that we're talking about an anomaly of a game where the field was just so slick and so tough to get your footing. The Bills defense was really struggling to penetrate the line of scrimmage. And they've struggled in other games in which teams emphasize heavily on running the football. They have a tough time getting through the line of scrimmage to get a TFL, a tackle for loss. I think if Christian McCaffrey would have stayed healthy, I think Buffalo still would have won the game. But I definitely think Christian McCaffrey would have put up some sort of stats that fantasy managers would have been happy about. Now, this is the biggest concern just overall in terms of the overall product of the Buffalo Bills. And this is Sean McDermott and his time management in critical situations. Now, if you were to ask me, do I feel Sean McDermott is a good coach? I would say yes. I would say yes, he's a good coach. He's won a lot of games here. He transformed the culture that he talked about constantly before he ever coached a game for the Buffalo Bills. When he was brought in here, he was brought in to be a culture changer type head coach, and he has been. He's done that, and then some. You want to talk about one of the best franchises in the National Football League. The Buffalo Bills are in that category. They've been in that category for the last 7-8 years. A lot of that has to do with Sean McDermott. A lot of that has to do with the arrival, the ascension, the superstardom of the biggest position in the game, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. And right now, the peaks and valleys of a player's career, some years are better than others. Why is that? Well, I could tell you this is Josh Allen's best season because he is not forced to rely on one guy catching the football. He's not forced to be a running back like he was in previous years when the Bills had absolutely no run game. More on that a little bit later, but he's evolving because he is taking what the defense gives him, and he's not forcing things. He's not trying to play the hero ball. He will if he has to, but he's not playing that way each and every week. He's not playing that way each and every drive. And when he does, magic has happened this year. He's done it in a way that has not put the football at risk. He's done it in a way that has avoided the turnover prone ability that we saw in previous seasons. I think that this is his most sound season. Now, with that, back to the subject matter and Sean McDermott, really the only way in which the Bills have lost this season, they've only lost 3 games out of 13. I'm not trying to nitpick here. But when you're in the race for the top seed, you want every game to be the best effort. You'd never want to lose a game on a technicality, on a bad decision, on something that, makes us say to ourselves, why did we lose this game? Well, we lost this game because Sean McDermott made a error that lessened our chances at winning the game. Now, I can't tell you for certain. I can't sit here and tell you for certain that the Houston thing where Josh Allen threw the ball 3 times, lost them the game. I can't tell you that. We don't know. We don't know what would have happened afterwards if they would have got a first down. We don't know if they would have actually finished the job of what they needed to do in that moment of getting in field goal range and kicking a field goal, winning that game. But what I can tell you is when these decisions are made in the time management critical situations, and they're made the way that they are, it lessens the chances dramatically of the Buffalo Bills even having a chance to win. And that is bad coaching. The head coach's job is to put the team in the best position to win. When the head coach makes decisions that hurt the team's chances dramatically of winning a game late in a game, after all that hard work, after all that toe-to-toe fighting that the Bills went through in this last week's game, that's something that has to stop. And that's something that has not stopped over the course of the last 7 or 8 years. And it is a massive thorn in the side of not just me, not just you, but the most valuable player right now in this league, Josh Allen. And I got to tell you guys, after this game, or as the game was wrapping up, I have never seen Josh Allen more agitated than he was when the Buffalo Bills decided to take a timeout after calling a quarterback sneak, one that they didn't get. Now, in that moment, what would I have done? Number one, I wouldn't have called the quarterback sneak on first down. I would have thrown the football, hoped for an incompletion at worst, and that stops the clock. That way you don't have to use that timeout. That way you can get the ball back potentially if you stop the Rams from getting a first down on their next drive with more time than none, which is what they got with the Rams punting the football away, and it was essentially game over once they decided to hike the ball on a punt. Worse than that is that, and that's bad, worse than that, worse than not leaving your team enough time to come back to attempt to win, is the fact that on this punt that the Rams punted the ball away and the game was over, there was not an all-out blitz on the punter. There was not an all-out, go for broke, get the ball, block it, just to see, if you block it, maybe somebody picks it up and runs it the other way for a score. Who knows? Now, these are stretch outcomes but the chances of it were so small because the Bills are missing a couple players on the field. And that is solely on the head coach, nobody else. It's you could say, oh, it's the special teams guy. Well, the head coach directs the special teams guy. The head coach directs the offensive coordinator. The head coach oversees everything. So ultimately, when something doesn't go right in that regard, it falls on Sean McDermott's shoulders. And the fact that there wasn't enough people back there to make a play as needed, that again takes an opportunity away from your team that they deserved to have in that moment in that game. So there are reasons to say, there are reasons to say that this is the same movie, potentially with the same ending. We've seen the Chiefs win in these close forms and fashion each and every week. I'm so sick of the Chiefs for so many reasons other than the Buffalo Bills, including the Buffalo Bills, and just football-wise in general. I'd love to see just a different team in the Super Bowl, two different teams that aren't the Chiefs, a team win the Super Bowl that isn't the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, I like Travis Kelce a lot, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've started to like his brother a lot more over the course of the last 2-3 years. He's kind of gotten on my nerves these last couple years with how the media has kind of shoved him down our throats. But I will say that the Chiefs are winning games because of what the Bills can't do. They're winning games in ways that the Bills should be winning games. And it's all due to coaching. You will only go as far as your coach in this league. You can only go as far as your coach. The players play the game, but the coach's job is to put his players in the best position to win each and every week. Does Sean McDermott do that consistently? The answer is no. And it's been no for quite a long time. But the magnifying glass is even bigger on it because of the fact that Josh Allen has become who he has become. And this team has grown into what it has become. And a lot of that has to do with Sean McDermott as well as Josh Allen. So it's a very tricky situation because I feel like I'm being critical of somebody that's responsible for why we are where we are for the good reasons. But he's also a contributing factor as to why we're not where we need to be, if that makes sense. He's a huge reason why we are where we are, but he's also a contributing factor to why we are not where we need to be. So time management, critical situation, these are all things that are practiced, prepped, and prepared for by every head coach in the National Football League, every head coach within the NFL, the coach's staff, just top to bottom. And it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating to see this team come up short when this team is easily the best team in the AFC. It's the record doesn't show it. KC's got a better record. I agree with that. That's obvious, painfully obvious, right? But the Bills have a more talented quarterback. I'm sorry. Allen right now is MVP. He equals MVP. This game proved to me, maybe more than any other, and this is a bold statement because I'm one of the few guys that can keep receipts because of the fact that I've had this show for so goddamn long. Number one. Number two, social media. It's a beautiful thing. In this case, the receipts that are allowed to be kept on social media when you have a take that is just chef's kiss. 2018, March of 2018, I go and say that Josh Allen would be the best fit for the Buffalo Bills, that Josh Allen would be the quarterback I'd pick, that Josh Allen is potentially the best quarterback I've seen coming out of college in quite some time. Yeah, that was me. Go back. I'll even post it if I have to. So did I ever think that this would be a reality? I didn't think he'd be there to take or trade up to take. I thought he'd be in the top 3 of that draft. I remember hearing a lot of rumors that he was going to go first overall to Cleveland. And last minute, these tweets leak that are from Josh Allen's teenage years that were not really, pleasant. They were a little rough around the edges. And Cleveland's owner, Jimmy Haslam, decides to take Baker Mayfield instead. Now, I don't know if the tweets were 100% of the reason why Cleveland decided to go in the direction that they did, but they did. And the Jets got Darnold. And then the Denver Broncos took Bradley Chubb, which shocked me. I thought they'd go Allen. And there was a team picking 6. Can't remember who that was off the top of my head, but then Buffalo moves up with Tampa Bay, and they get the future NFL MVP, all-time great quarterback, Josh Allen, the guy that broke Jim Kelly's all-time touchdown record halfway through his own career. I mean, the games that we have seen from this guy this year have been truly astounding. And it goes without saying, and I know this is going to sound a little corny and a little cheesy, but I literally check my fantasy football app every week, almost every day. I look through it. I see who's available, all the leagues that I'm in, right? And I've had a dynasty league for the last 4 years. And I won the draft lottery. I picked first. And for a little while, I was like, who am I going to take? I don't know who I'm going to take. And then, like a lightning bolt, striking my brain is like, why would I not take Josh Allen? He's the quarterback of my team. He's talented. He's got all the ability in the world. August 30th, 2021, I take Josh Allen with the first overall pick in a dynasty draft. 4 years later, for the 4th straight season, I'm the number 1 seed. And a lot of that has to do with Josh Allen. I would say at least 50% of it has to do with Josh Allen. The other 50, the drafting, the trading that I've done over the course of the last 4 years to, lead myself to making my team as balanced, I think, as I've ever had in any fantasy league, let alone a dynasty league. So this guy is the best in the game right now. There is no comparison. You can't say Mahomes because Mahomes and the Chiefs have been anemic on offense all season long. You can't say Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has a running back that is just as worthy, if not more worthy, of being in the MVP discussion compared to him. And you can't say Saquon. And I'll tell you why. You can't say Saquon because last year when Lamar Jackson won MVP, there was a running back that played much, much better body of work-wise than Lamar did at his own position. That was Christian McCaffrey. If Christian McCaffrey wasn't the league MVP last year, why should Saquon be the MVP? When McCaffrey had just as good a year, if not a better year, in which the San Francisco 49ers were in the Super Bowl, largely because of the year that he had, not even just regular season, but playoffs as well. Will we be able to say the same thing about the Philadelphia Eagles come Super Bowl time? I don't know, maybe. It's possible. But would the Buffalo Bills be within 2 points of winning that game last week without Josh Allen? Hell no. Would the Buffalo Bills be in the thick of it every single year if it wasn't for, or without Josh Allen? Hell no. I would go as far as to say that the greatest reality check that I've given myself in terms of the Buffalo Bills in recent years is this team would still be a struggling team if they didn't find this kid out of Fireball, California, that didn't get any scholarship offers, got one scholarship offer after 2 years at community college football, and they decide we're going to take this kid. It was the greatest decision that this franchise has ever made since Jim Kelly. And then Jim Kelly didn't even want to play here, didn't come here. Josh Allen, man, he would have done anything to play anywhere because of where he had come from. So very poetic to be in the position that we're in. And yes, we got a game. We got a big game on Sunday, a massive game on Sunday. So let's get to it. Let's get to the Buffalo Bills preview and prediction for the Detroit Lions game. So, as I mentioned, I circled this game on the calendar long ago. This was a game that I really enjoyed a couple years back. I think it was 2022, Thanksgiving. Buffalo went to Detroit, and it came down to the wire. This game is going to be the exact same way. This game is not going to be a blowout for either team. The two teams are far too talented. The two teams are far too disciplined. And the two teams are mirror images of each other in certain ways in terms of how they can beat you and how they can run up the score. Now, do they do it two different ways? Yes. But in terms of talent, talent everywhere on both of these teams, offensively and defensively. So, realistically, the biggest thing that scares me about the Detroit Lions is not the two big name players, not Jared Goff, not Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Gibbs and Montgomery. It sounds like a law firm. It sounds like something that was in Wall Street or something like Wolf of Wall Street or Wall Street with Michael Douglas. But it's a running back tandem, the likes of which I don't think we've seen in the league in quite some time. And the way the Detroit Lions can run the football is as physical and is as nasty as any team I've seen in recent memory. Now, there's been good running backs, a good running back on one team, a good running back on another, but there's never been two running backs that are starters on any other team, but shoulder a shared load with one another. Shoulder the, hey, I'm willing to take a little bit of time off so that you can get the ball. Hey, I'm willing to take a couple snaps off so that you can. I mean, it takes a level of humbleness or a level of, I guess, heightened sense of teammate to be able to say, I'm going to, take less touches. You can take my touches. Jahmyr Gibbs is a stud. He can catch. He can run routes. He can run in between the tackles. David Montgomery, he can catch. He can run routes. He can run in between the tackles. Both guys are physically, I'd say, polar opposites, but both guys can do the same thing to you. And that's really tough to game plan for. It's really tough because not only do you have those two guys, but you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Jamison Williams, you have Sam Laporta, who's coming off of a phenomenal rookie season last year. His numbers this year have dipped, but he's been battling injuries. So how much has that played a factor? Really, where Buffalo can kind of come into this one and stake their claim is by doing what Detroit does, kind of beating them with their own medicine or giving them a taste of their own medicine, I should say, with James Cook, with Ray Davis. Now, last week against the Rams, the run game was out the window because they were down, they were battling, it was a shootout. Both defenses were probably dog tired in that game last week. And it's going to be a rough day for both opposing, Bills, Lions defense because Buffalo is going to come right after it. Detroit is going to come right after it in terms of attacking the defense. So for me, I think this is the toughest matchup that the Bills have faced all season long. And the fact that they lost even by a little bit to the Rams, a blocked punt played a big factor in the scoreboard last week. The Bills can't give up any points on special teams. You never can. That leads to defeat. It usually does. Last time the Bills, allowed a blocked punt was week 1 against Pittsburgh a couple years back. They lost that game at home, opened the season, lost it at home due to a blocked punt. That was pretty brutal. But they can't allow that to happen this time. They have to play turnover-free football. You cannot give the ball back to this offense. They're too talented. I guess I could say, too, that MVP-wise, you can make a case that Jared Goff should be the MVP. And this is a big game for the Buffalo Bills' playoff hopes. Of course, they're in the playoffs, but to try to get the 1 seed, there's only so many weeks left. Is it still possible? Yes. Is it less possible than what it was a couple weeks ago? Yes. But we got to win out. I want to have the best record possible, 14-3, and get as many home playoff games as we possibly can. If it's not all of them, it's going to be at least the majority. Wild card week. Right now, we're scheduled to take on Denver. I like that matchup, obviously, but we don't want to lose the divisional round again. We want to host a team, wild card divisional round, beat those teams, go back to the AFC title game, and try to get to the Super Bowl. That's the goal. That should be the goal every single year, as long as Josh Allen is your quarterback. But as I said, I think this is going to be a shootout again. I think it's going to be a very close game. And I am going to go with the Bills winning it by a score of 41-38. I think both defenses are susceptible to getting gashed in this game. Buffalo in the run, Detroit in the pass. They just signed Jamal Adams off the street. They got so many injuries littered across their defense that I think Josh Allen will be able to have his way. And I think Jared Goff in his own right could have his way as well. So I think Tyler Bass is going to be asked to make a big kick again. Fortunately, this game is in a dome. It's at Ford Field. He won't have to kick a game winner in the wind, in the snow, in the sleet that's on its way to Buffalo, to the South towns. Fingers crossed, not as much in the North towns where I'm at, but I really hope that this plays itself as a picture within this game. Tyler Bass, 38-38, drills a 50-yarder, and the Buffalo Bills win this game, ride back home to take on the next opponent. I believe they're home the following week. If not, my apologies, but I realistically feel like this game is a winnable game, but I know for certain how hard this game is going to be. I'm not looking past they're home next week against the Patriots. I am not looking past the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, I think right now, are the best team in football outside of the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are better than KC. I think they've proven it all year long. They beat KC, but they've beaten teams in much more impressive fashion. And Detroit has been right there each and every week as one of the best teams in football. So we could be talking about a preview to the Super Bowl. We really could. We could be talking about a preview to the Super Bowl, and it would be the Super Bowl that everybody wants between two teams that have, mightily struggled over the course of their history, two cities that were two of the most successful cities at one point in the country. Buffalo manufacturing, automotive, Detroit manufacturing, automotive. Both cities have had some downtrodden times for a wide variety of reasons. A lot of it has to do with bad policy within the political spectrum. A lot of it has to do with, unfortunately, the recessions, crime. But if there's two fan bases in the sport that are as respected as the Lions and Bills, tell me who they are. Tell me who they are. Because they've both endured a lot. And this is a fun game. I am really looking forward to it. I love that it's on at 4:25. I enjoy the Sunday 1 or 4. I don't mind Sunday night as much, but Monday night just crushes me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm turning 33 in April, but once you turn 30, they say it's all downhill. Joking, hardy hard, but 33. Once I turned 30 and I started watching Monday Night Football, it's like I can't even make it through a half. I will for the Bills though. Next season when they're on Monday Night Football again. So there you have it. I really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We got up to around 800. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. And of course, I'll be back for another episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. So much going on right now. Let's get you, up to date with not only the Buffalo Bills, but the Buffalo Sabres. It is still 1-0 against the New York Rangers. So hopefully we can put one in the net here. Come on, guys. Let's go. But I'm really excited for this game, really excited for the rest of the season. Still got a lot of football left to be played in the regular season. Detroit, New England, Jets, New England. That's the rest of the slate. If we get past Detroit, I'm not looking past the Patriots, but they're the Patriots. They're not what they were. The Jets have been abysmal, but they're going to be playing for a lot at the tail end of the season. They always like to play Buffalo as tough as they possibly can, especially defensively. So we'll see what happens there, but a lot of football. Any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, anything can happen, but I think it's going to be a great shootout, a great spectacle, and one of the more entertaining games of the season between the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. For all that and much, much more, you guys can follow me on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. You can follow me on social media at Ryan Thomas Take. I really appreciate you guys and gals that have followed me all season long. Once again, it's been a great season. 10-3, can't complain, right? But hey, I want a Super Bowl, and I want Sean McDermott to coach this team the right way in critical situations. I don't want to see these mistakes. I don't want to see these follies, I guess I'd call it, in crunch time situations. Want to see our coach put our team in the best position to win, whether it's with 1 minute left or with 10 minutes left. There you have it. Go Bills.